Welcome to this presentation of Mandatory Reporter Training for Adult Abuse, Neglect, and Exploitation. In this session, you will learn the basics of being a mandatory reporter, along with your responsibilities as a mandatory reporter. A mandatory reporter is one who is required by law to report reasonable suspicions of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Elder abuse, neglect, and exploitation are highly underreported, and this law was created to protect our most vulnerable adults. Individuals who are considered mandatory or mandated reporters are more likely to witness or suspect that abuse, neglect, and/or exploitation has taken place. Therefore, mandatory reporters have an obligation to report their suspicions. Mandatory means you must report. There are penalties for mandatory reporters who do not report. More information about this is available on a resource slide at the conclusion of this presentation. Who is a mandatory reporter? Those employed, licensed, registered, or certified to provide, or employees of an agency licensed to provide the following services: healthcare, education, social welfare, mental health, and other human services. This means that everyone who is licensed, registered, or certified, even if unemployed, is still a mandatory reporter. And if you are employed by an agency licensed to provide these services, no matter what your job title is, you are a mandatory reporter. If you don't know if you are a mandatory reporter, check with your employer or licensing certification agency. Healthcare service workers include, but are not limited to, physicians, nurses, physician's assistants, psychologists, licensed professional counselors, aides, dentists, dental hygienists, licensed EMS providers, hospital administrators and staff in long-term care settings. Everyone who is providing healthcare services is a mandatory reporter, regardless of whether they are in a home setting or are employed by an organization. Educational service workers who are mandatory reporters include, but again, not limited to, teachers, school administrators, school counselors, social workers, employees of educational service providers. Please note that there are students over age 18 who may be considered vulnerable adults. Public service workers include, but are not limited to, licensed social workers, marriage and family therapists, county medical examiners and staff, adult daycare providers, law enforcement officers, and employees of public service providers. When in doubt about whether your job makes you a mandatory reporter, ask your employer. You can also check your professional code of ethics and/or contact a private attorney. As of September 26, 2021, per the Financial Exploitation Prevention Act, Public Acts 344 and 345, staff working at banks and credit unions are mandatory reporters to law enforcement or adult protective services. More information about this is available on a resource slide at the conclusion of this presentation. Attorneys, long-term care ombudsmen, and clergy are all exempt from being mandatory reporters for adult abuse, neglect, and exploitation due to confidentiality. There are several reasons why reporting is so important. To name a few, it can make a difference in that person's life. It can prevent further maltreatment, and support and services can be made available to assist the vulnerable adult. Some have expressed concerns about reporting. They may feel as though they are interfering in someone else's life, but if you don't, who will? Others may be concerned about causing someone to be moved out of their home. But the bigger concern here is, what if a vulnerable adult continues to be hurt? And some are concerned that their identity will be revealed when making the report. But when making a report to APS, the referral source, including the person's name, is kept confidential. Who is a vulnerable adult? A person who is 18 or older and has mental or physical impairment or advanced age and is unable to protect him or herself from abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Adult Protective Services, or APS, is a social services program provided by state government serving older adults and adults with disabilities who need assistance because of abuse, neglect, or exploitation, collectively called maltreatment. APS is limited in what they can do by state laws, available resources, and often by what the person will allow. Every action taken by APS must balance the duty to protect the safety of the vulnerable adult with the adult's right to self-determination. All persons with capacity have the right to choose their own values, principles, and lifestyles. Further, it is assumed a person has capacity unless a probate court decides otherwise. Note, capacity is an ability to comprehend both the nature and consequences of one's actions. A capable person has the right to make poor choices and the right to refuse any and all services. Therefore, a person with capacity may choose to remain in an unsafe, unhealthy, or unclean environment. Adults have the right to make decisions that do not conform with societal norms as long as those decisions do not harm others. As mentioned, they may also refuse services, including adult protective services. APS has the responsibility to examine all aspects of reported maltreatment while not revealing the identity of the reporter. Confidentiality laws prevent the release of a reported adult's personal information and information about the referral source. When resources are available, APS has the duty to inform and assist an adult in obtaining needed services, but cannot require a person with capacity to accept services. Every service plan for an adult with capacity is driven by that adult, not APS, family, or others. APS works to help adults maintain their independence and cannot involuntarily remove an adult from their home or interfere with that person's chosen lifestyle. When a report is received involving an adult, APS will take appropriate steps to ensure the adult's safety. In case of emergency situations, first call 911. To reach Adult Protective Services, call Centralized Intake 24/7 to report abuse, neglect, and/or exploitation of a vulnerable adult. The toll-free number is 855-444-3911. Please note that Centralized Intake has linguistics resources available for those making a report who are deaf or hard of hearing, as well as those who are non-English speakers. Best practice would be to program this toll-free number into your electronic devices so it is readily available should you need it. Required information you will be asked includes the name of the adult, the address where they are living, a description of the abuse, neglect, or exploitation, and the cause and manner of the alleged abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Cause and manner means what actually took place and what you witnessed or suspect, including the who, what, where, when, and why you suspect the abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Information, if available, includes the adult's age and date of birth, contact information of next of kin, others residing in the home and their relationship to the adult, and the alleged perpetrator. You may be asked additional questions and have the opportunity to provide other relevant information that you may have. It's important to state just the facts when making a report. The Good Faith Clause provides immunity from civil liability, which protects those who make a referral to Adult Protective Services from being sued. The Good Faith Clause also protects a person from retaliation, including being fired from his or her job. More information about this is available on a resource slide at the conclusion of this presentation. Failure to report suspected abuse, neglect, or exploitation could result in a civil fine of up to $500 and/or being civilly liable for damages caused by your failure to report. Further, there are potential licensing penalties if a mandatory reporter fails to report suspected abuse, neglect, and/or exploitation of a vulnerable adult. It takes courage to stand up for vulnerable adults, and your efforts are appreciated. Remember, you are just reporting the facts of any incidents, behaviors, or conversations that may be signs or symptoms of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. You usually won't see these things happening. You will more likely see physical and/or emotional signs and symptoms. Most of the time, these signs won't be 100% clear. However, reporting them will ensure the greatest safety. It's up to the investigators to determine if abuse, neglect, or exploitation has occurred. It's important to do the right thing by reporting your suspicions. For more information, the next two slides provide several resources. This slide has information on specific sections of the APS Statute, Public Act 519 of 1982, also known as the Social Welfare Act. This slide provides more resources which you may find helpful, including information on the Financial Exploitation Prevention Act and the State of Michigan Adult Protective Services webpage. Thank you for your participation in this training on mandatory reporting. Remember, the toll-free number for reporting is 855-444-3911. Please note that all the resource links are provided along with the certificate of completion in a slide below this training video.